I was playing my ukulele today, and I was trying to pick out this finger picking part. And sometimes it's hard to stay in rhythm, and I could feel like internally to get into that flow state, you have to the only way I can describe it is related to like the chakra system, but not in a visual way, like in a felt experience inside. I could feel where it was blocked, and I was like struggling to get this groove. And just like letting that energy flow through, I could feel that groove. And then I was thinking about like the process of becoming a master at something, like the seeking of perfection within the process. And it's interesting because it feels like we're coming out of a big cycle of this desire to like make history go away because of the shame or whatever it is that experience related to our history, which just exemplifies our imperfections. And there's a desire to only share the perfect. And it's interesting because in that process of playing an instrument and like in the moment adjusting one's internal state to be able to create a flow state, like that's a huge process of self-awareness. And it took it takes a lot to be able to sit with those uncomfortable spaces where it's not perfect. And we don't want to share that. We don't want to incorporate our history into this moment. We only want to say, here I am. I have arrived. But the real juice is, how did you get there? Because in wanting to share any sort of message that may help others heal, I realized that the message may appear like perfection, like, oh, this person seems like they're doing really well and they're happy, and it's the process to get there that means anything. So by sharing my own experience, it shows how one can get through the challenges of the moment to create a present experience that one desires. Like, let me put that another way. So my unique story, just like everyone's unique story, you have a unique story too. And that story is what helped you awaken to yourself and to the bigger picture of things. And so we have to arrive to a place where we can share those stories in truth, in humility, in compassion, that we all have these experiences. And in order to arrive to an experience of awakening, oftentimes one must go through intense experiences. And if we come to the forefront and identify ourselves as having a message that we want to share, part of that message needs to incorporate our own healing process and what we discovered through our own personal history. And I think about that in the context of music, because as a musician, I've gone through, like, for instance, I picked up a saxophone a year and a half ago, and immediately tapped into it. But then when I went to share it, I would get really nervous because some part of me felt like I wasn't perfect yet. And so I shouldn't share it. But I'm pretty decent, actually. When I'm by myself, especially, or like in small settings, I can really lock into it. And so I'm just like breaking down that mental space now where the process of becoming is the most important thing, and we're all going to mess up. And the more that we can allow space for that discomfort in messing up, the closer we get to a real experience, because it allows the felt experience to become part of the conversation. And that's something that the digital world can never touch. Like, our imperfections are what make us human, because it tells the story of the process of becoming. And yeah, so, you know, fine, I guess the idea with that is, like, we each have to begin to tell our individual history, our own story. And the best way to do that is to start by understanding what is our true story and what is not our true story. And what is not our true story is still part of our story in the sense that we gave it power as part of our story, but it doesn't define who we are as a person. And yeah, that's where the shame resides. And when we can get past that, man, life begins to feel a lot more comfortable. Because although we can't change the circumstances of the moment, we understand that they're part of a bigger process. And what's meant to be will be. So, you know, just dive deep into your own experience and observe those parts of the thought process that contain judgment, and then look at the face that's on that judgment. What's the voice of that judgment? And arrive to a place where it is a voice with no name, with no face, with no attachment. And then it begins to connect with the felt experience. We get a little bit deep here sometimes. You know, you begin to connect with your own internal felt experience, because you realize that, like, that voice is yours, that connects to the hive mind, the higher picture of what's going on, the bigger time scale. Everything's a microcosm of the macrocosm. So what we're experiencing in this moment, just like if we look at an ant colony, you know, it has a short time frame, but within that, they're building cities and communities and connection and communication, and they have process. Like, we are of the same process. And there's a bigger time scale that exists beyond this life, this human life. So when we find that space where we can detach from the body and connect to our higher self, and then bring that higher self back to the ground and understand that the higher level experience only has meaning because we create meaning through form. So honor the form that is present in this experience right now. Yeah. All right. And if you feel like playing an instrument, I highly suggest it. It's a really good way to face one's own fears and to find a flow state. I mean, really anything creative, anything that you can attain a flow state with creatively, that challenges you a little bit, like mentally especially, I highly recommend it. Yeah. All right. Mwah.